Welcome back. Now, in light of National Women's Day tomorrow, we turn our attention to the state of women-owned businesses in South Africa. According to MasterCard's latest research, 71% of women are interested in starting their own businesses, but access to information and a lack of funding are still cited as key barriers to realizing this ambition. Nokhanyo Ntshingila, Senior Manager of ESD Programs and Partnerships at Standard Bank's Business and Commercial Banking Unit, joins us with more insight on the state of women-owned businesses in the country. Thank you so much for your time, Nokhanyo. And let's actually start off with, some of the maybe, common key statistics that are vital in telling the story of women's participation in the entrepreneurial landscape in South Africa.
I think you've mentioned it. Women are still disadvantaged when it comes to entrepreneurship. We've seen how they are always at the back foot when it comes to entrepreneurship. So with the work that we do in enterprise and supplier development, so we come across these quite often. We run development programs, we support black business, through the mandate of the BBBE policy. So we've seen the lack of resources, lack of finance, lack of access to markets, specifically for women in business. So I think the conversation around women in business really is very important. They need the support. They need to be seen, they need to be understood, and they need that elevation to support their enterprises.
And let's zoom in on that importance, right? The importance of women-led businesses and how they are participating in the local economy, considering that we also have many households in South Africa led by women. Yeah,
so women, let me first start here. South African small SMEs, right? They contribute circa around 35% of South African GDP. Creating employment sitting at over 60% just from small businesses. And women are at the center of that. Women are at the center of that. They contribute highly in terms of putting bread on the table, in terms of job creation, in terms of the economic growth of the country. Right. So it is a big drive from a women perspective. We all know how brave and how hardworking women are. So it is again very important for these women enterprises to be supported, because once again, with the exposure that we have, with the women that we support in our programs, we've seen how they really bring that focus and bring that intention. They no longer want to sit at the back. They want to be at the forefront. They want to be innovative. They want to form sustainable enterprises so that they contribute to the economy of the country. And of course, the basics of bringing food at the table of their communities.
I want to drill into a certain nuance here, because you talk about building sustainable businesses, but also putting bread on the table. There seems to be a lot of focus in terms of investor support and financial institution support for scalable businesses. But there are a lot of barriers to growth for many businesses, and not every business is designed for scale. And I'm wondering then, what is the appetite from financial institutions to actually support survivalist businesses, the ones that are hand to mouth, where the source of income basically is to put on the table, versus the scalable businesses? Is there actual support for the ones that are survivalist?
So there is support for both. Obviously, we would like businesses to be sustainable and not just, be a hand to mouth. Because of what they can bring in terms of, we know the highest challenge that we face as a country, which is the unemployment stats. So if you are hand to mouth, you're not necessarily going to grow and grow the economy. It will just remain within, I guess, your family. But there is support from a from financial institutions. It's not going to be too different though from supporting a sustainable or a business that wants to scale, because if you want funding, as an example, in both instances, we want to understand your behavior, we want to understand your credit worthiness, we want to understand your business proposal, and as a whole, we want to understand what do you want to do, because if we're going to fund you, who's going to pay you, who are your clients? So if you're a hand to mouth, we'll still support if you meet that criteria still. But what are the, what do you want to do further than that, right? There is support, but the ultimate goal is to scale.
Yeah. And are these businesses tapping into those opportunities? I'm also thinking of businesses that operate in the informal market. Is the information accessible?
So through the support that we give, specifically in enterprise and supplier development, we are very deliberate and focused on that information sharing, because we still find that our community, especially Black communities, they don't have this information. They look at a financial institution, not necessarily Standard Bank, a financial institution as an institution where you put in money and you take it out, not understanding that there has been evolvement, right, to catch up with the lack of the country, the economy, and and global competitiveness as well, to support businesses beyond the transaction. So we see that a lot, in ESD. That is why we have these programs where we actually offer them access to resources, and that access to resources means breaking down information, tools, practical tools of where they can get funding, where they can get support for access to markets, and where they can get support for development, their personal business skills and their entrepreneurial skills. That's what we offer, because there is a dire need for that, for businesses in general to grow, that information, access to resources, the development, the business skills. You find that some businesses, majority of them, they have the technical know-how to an extent of what they are doing. They don't know how to run a business. And that's where we come in and support them with that, to say, this is how you manage your operation efficiently. This is how you manage your finances. This is how you manage people. This is how you present yourself, in settings of collaborations, partnerships, and stuff like that. So there is a big gap when it comes to information.
Right. We'll talk about collaboration. Hopefully we can start to see more momentum as we have the collaboration, of course, of the G20, and that being a huge priority in that agenda. Thank you so much for your time and your insights, Nokhanyo. That was Nokhanyo Ntshingila, Senior Manager of ESD Programs and Partnerships at Standard Bank's Business and Commercial Banking.